Luxury cars promise speed, status, and control, but in the wrong moment, they can become weapons of destruction. In this video, we'll uncover 5 more real stories where high-end cars weren't just involved in deadly crashes. They were at the center of chilling, often bizarre events. Some victims were speeding, others weren't even behind the wheel. But all 5 stories end the same way: fast, violent, and full of unanswered questions. It was the early morning of March 18, 2012 in Beijing, China. The streets were mostly quiet, but on the North 4th Ring Road, a major highway, a crash occurred that would spark major controversy. A black Ferrari 458 Spider was speeding down the road. Inside were 3 young people. The driver, 23-year-old Ling Gu, was the only son of Ling Jihua, one of the most powerful officials in China and a close aide to then-President Hu Jintao. With him were 2 women, reportedly either partially or not clothed. Some speculated they were engaged in intimate activity when Ling lost control. The Ferrari hit a wall at high speed near Baofuzi Bridge. Ling Gu died at the scene. One of the women also passed away, while the other survived with life-changing injuries, becoming paralyzed from the neck down. First responders had trouble identifying the victims due to the crash's severity, but it quickly became clear this was no ordinary accident. Soon after, a photo of the wrecked Ferrari was published in the Beijing Evening News and began circulating online. Users on Chinese social media started asking who the driver was and how such a high-end car ended up in such a crash. But not long after those posts appeared, they started disappearing. Government censors began removing any mention of the crash. Searches for terms like Ferrari, Little Ling, or Prince Ling came up empty. Behind the scenes, officials were trying to hide what had happened. Ling Gu's name was changed on official documents, possibly using the surname Jia, which sounds like fake in Mandarin. This caused more confusion since Jia was also the surname of another senior official who was reportedly upset by the rumors. Ling Jihua, the father, was allegedly shown the body but denied it was his son. Reports claimed he tried to use his influence over state security to manage the situation. One source said he contacted Zhou Yongkang, head of China's legal and political affairs, asking for help in covering up the incident. Although the government stayed quiet, political circles in Beijing knew what had happened. Ling Gu had crashed a $500,000 Ferrari while accompanied by 2 women. The public began asking how someone from a modestly paid government family could afford such a car. The timing couldn't have been worse. China was just weeks away from a major leadership shift. President Hu was stepping down and Xi Jinping was preparing to take over. Ling Jihua had been expected to rise into the Politburo, China's top decision-making group. But 5 months after the crash, in August 2012, he was quietly removed from his powerful role and reassigned. His new job, while still important, was clearly a step down. Hong Kong's South China Morning Post was the first to break the silence, confirming Ling Gu's death. Global media soon picked up the story. Though some foreign outlets reported unconfirmed and sensitive details about the crash, Chinese media remained silent. The story triggered outrage online. Many saw it as another example of the privileged lifestyles enjoyed by the children of high-ranking officials. Despite their parents earning modest official salaries, around $8,000 a year, these young adults were often seen in luxury cars and expensive clothing. Reports surfaced that the families of the 2 women were offered money to stay quiet. One claim said the funds came from an oil company executive with political ties. Efforts were also made online to discredit the story using fake accounts. But by then, it was too late to control. Back in China, the crash was never officially acknowledged. But people continued to talk about it, quietly. Ling Gu's classmates were shocked. One roommate said they had planned to attend graduate school together, but after the crash, he never saw him again. There were no public statements, no national mourning, just silence. Still, the black Ferrari crash remains one of the most talked about cases in recent Chinese political history, an event where power, secrecy, and privilege all collided. It was March 31, 2024 in northern Italy. Around midday, a white Ferrari GTC4 was speeding down the A4 to A5 highway between Ivrea and Santa Ana. Inside the car were 40-year-old DJ Hisny Kestad, also known as DJ Style Q, and 21-year-old Ukrainian model Anna Kravska. Earlier that day, they had left a nightclub in Sion, Switzerland, where Kestad had performed. What began as a high-speed drive ended in one of the most serious road accidents Italy had seen that year. Anna, originally from Odessa, Ukraine, had built a modeling career and lived in Switzerland. She was active on social media, often posting about her trips and daily life. But just before the crash, she went silent. Her friends grew worried when they didn't hear from her after she told them she was heading to Italy. Kestad was well known in the European nightlife scene. He had performed in several countries, including Albania, Germany, Switzerland, and the United States. Though he lived in Villeneuve, Switzerland, his wife and 2 children, ages 11 and 14, still lived in Kosovo. The night before the crash, he performed at the Jukebox Club in Sion. Witnesses saw him leave the venue with Anna. At around 1:00 p.m. on Easter Sunday, the Ferrari was reportedly traveling at around 200 kilometers per hour, about 124 miles per hour, when Kestad lost control. Near the town of Alice Castello, the car slammed into a guardrail. The impact was so severe that the Ferrari split in half. The front of the car, where both passengers were seated, was destroyed and quickly caught fire. One of the front wheels was thrown several yards away. Only the rear of the car remained mostly intact. Witnesses said the car had been moving at extreme speed right before the crash. Emergency services arrived quickly, police, paramedics, and firefighters, but it was too late. Both Kestad and Anna died instantly. The fire made it very hard to identify the bodies. Authorities first confirmed the identity of the driver, Kestad. His body was found near the driver's seat, and a gold watch that had survived the fire helped confirm who he was. The second victim, a young woman in the passenger seat, couldn't be identified visually due to the fire damage. But Swiss police had just received a missing persons report from Anna's friends. The timing matched. She had told them she was going to Italy but never contacted them again. Witnesses at the club confirmed she had left with Kestad. Investigators launched DNA testing, and a second gold watch, one seen often in Anna's social media posts, was found at the scene. Her friends were certain it belonged to her. The Ferrari they were in was a high-powered luxury car worth more than $135,000. At extreme speeds, even a small mistake can be fatal. Investigators found no mechanical issues or road hazards. The cause appeared to be speed alone. Photos from the scene show the extent of the damage. The front of the car was nearly gone, burned down to metal. Only the rear remained, offering a clue to the type of car involved. This case drew attention due to who the victims were. Anna and Kestad were both active online and had large followings. Though they never confirmed a relationship, those close to them said they had been spending time together more often. Kestad's brother, Agimi, described him as a kind and caring person, a loving father and devoted sibling. His 2 children were left without their father. Anna's friends were heartbroken. She had rebuilt her life in Switzerland and was doing well. The sudden loss hit them hard. Investigators shut down the highway for hours as cleanup crews removed the debris. Parts of the car had scattered across the road and nearby fields. Every piece was documented to understand how the crash happened. No foul play or outside factors were found. This was a case of speed, a moment of lost control, and a car that couldn't recover. There was no warning, no way out. Just an instant crash that ended 2 lives. It was June 22, 2019, in Glengowrie, a quiet suburb in Adelaide, South Australia. 15-year-old Sophia Naismith was walking with her best friend Jordan Kalia along Morfett Road. It was a regular evening, but just before 10 p.m. things took a tragic turn. Sophia was a student at Brighton Secondary School. She was known for her kindness, drive, and school spirit. She played volleyball and had been chosen to represent South Australia in a national tournament set for August. Her parents, Pia Vogren and Luke Naismith, were proud of all she had accomplished. That night, as Sophia and Jordan passed the House of Tea and Chinese restaurant, a white Lamborghini Huracan suddenly veered off the road, jumped the curb, and struck them before crashing into the building. The car was driven by 37-year-old Alexander Campbell. He had owned the Lamborghini, valued at $330,000 for just 4 months. It had custom plates that read Psycho. On this night, he was driving in sports mode, a setting that increases the vehicle's power and disables key safety systems, including electronic stability control. Sophia died at the scene. Jordan was seriously injured and taken to Flinders Medical Center. From her hospital bed, she posted a tribute to Sophia on Instagram, writing, "You will be forever loved and never forgotten." The tragedy shook the community. Flowers and messages were left at the site. Around 2,000 people later attended a public memorial for Sophia. Her school described her as a popular and vibrant student. Support was offered to students and staff as the city mourned. Authorities launched an investigation. Prosecutors said Campbell knew what disabling the safety systems meant, especially in such a powerful car on a cold road. They believed he had already lost control of the car earlier that same drive. Campbell was charged with causing death by dangerous driving. But 3 years later, during a judge-alone trial, he was found not guilty of that charge. The court said it wasn't proven beyond a reasonable doubt that he had accelerated dangerously. Instead, he pleaded guilty to a lesser charge, aggravated driving without due care. During sentencing, the court confirmed that Campbell had knowingly disabled the car's safety systems and used a mode that made it harder to control. The judge, Paul Muscat, said this was more than just a brief mistake. It showed serious carelessness. Still, Campbell did not receive prison time. In February 2021, he was given a suspended sentence of 4 months and 27 days due to his early guilty plea. He was also ordered to do community service and placed on an 18-month good behavior bond. His driving license was suspended for 4 years and 4 months, though some of that time had already passed while he was on bail. Outside court, Sophia's mother called the sentence sickening. Her father said they would focus on pushing for changes in the law, and they succeeded. In the following years, new laws were introduced in South Australia under the name Sophia's Law. These included fines up to $5,000 for disabling safety features in powerful vehicles. A new offense was created for causing harm or death through careless driving, which can lead to up to 7 years in prison. Police were also given more authority to suspend licenses on the spot, and soon, drivers will need a special license to operate ultra-high-powered vehicles. Volleyball SA also honored Sophia by launching the Sophia Naismith SA Spirit Award in 2023. It celebrates young athletes who show compassion, teamwork, and dedication, all values Sophia was known for. The first recipient was Zephyr Bruce, who continued to support her teammates even after being injured. Sophia's parents personally handed her the award. Sophia's life was cut short during a walk with her best friend. A man in a powerful car made dangerous choices, and the justice system couldn't fully hold him responsible. But her family's fight for change has helped reshape the law, ensuring her legacy lives on. It was the morning of November 22, 2023, just before Thanksgiving. The weather was cold, and the roads were busy with travelers heading out for the holiday. At the Rainbow Bridge border crossing near Niagara Falls, cars moved slowly through inspection booths between the United States and Canada. Everything seemed normal. Then, just before 11:30 a.m., something unexpected happened. A silver Bentley Flying Spur suddenly sped down Niagara Street at a dangerously high speed. It crossed an intersection, slightly swerved, then hit a median with full force. The car launched into the air and crashed straight into a border inspection booth. The explosion was huge. Witnesses described a loud blast and a massive fireball. Smoke and debris filled the area. The car was destroyed beyond recognition. Border agents rushed in. Authorities shut down the entire area, closing all 4 U.S.-Canada border crossings. News outlets scrambled to report, and social media lit up with panic. At first, many feared it was an attack, but as more details came out, the story took a different turn. It wasn't planned, but it was still horrifying. 2 days later, the victims were identified as Kurt and Monica Villani, both 53 from Grand Island, New York, just 10 miles away. Married since 1995, they were known in their community for running Gooey's Lumber, a local hardware business with 7 locations across western New York. They were respected, kind, and generous. That morning, they were on their way to see a Kiss concert in Toronto. Before heading to the border, they had stopped at the Seneca Niagara Resort and Casino. The concert had been canceled just hours earlier, but the couple likely didn't know. The car they were in wasn't ordinary. The 2022 Bentley Flying Spur is a high-performance luxury vehicle. It can go from 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 4 seconds and weighs over 5,100 pounds. Used models sell for more than $200,000. It's built for speed, not for regular city streets. Footage from border security cameras showed the Bentley flying past slower traffic before hitting the curb and launching. The crash injured a border officer inside the booth, but they survived with minor injuries. The Villanis died instantly as their car caught fire. Nothing could be done. From the time they turned onto Niagara Street to the moment of impact, only about 30 seconds had passed. In that time, the car sped through several intersections and ran at least 4 red lights. It narrowly missed hitting other vehicles. The FBI quickly ruled out any intent or criminal involvement. It was declared an accident, but people were still left wondering what caused the car to accelerate like that. Weeks before, Kurt had told friends he thought something was wrong with the gas pedal. No other details were shared, and it's unclear if it was inspected. Bentley Motors hasn't commented. The 2022 model had 3 recalls, but none involved acceleration. In 2021, there had been a recall involving gas pedals, but only for right-hand drive cars overseas, not this one. A road safety engineer later reviewed the footage and noticed a dark vapor trail behind the car, likely from the tires. This suggested Kurt was braking hard, awake, alert, and trying to stop. The Villanis left behind 2 adult children, 26-year-old Kurt Jr., a former youth hockey standout, and 27-year-old Mia. The family had a long history in the area, known for acts of generosity. In 2014, Kurt and his father gave away 250 turkeys for Thanksgiving. The Villanis often helped neighbors and supported community projects. Sadly, this wasn't the family's first tragedy. In 1978, Kurt's grandmother died in a boating accident on the Niagara River. A bridge that wasn't properly lit caused the crash. The family later won a lawsuit. The crash has raised questions about whether such fast cars belong on public roads. Even with advanced features, not all high-performance systems can prevent disaster, especially at those speeds. In the US, there are still no rules requiring automatic speed control. In under a minute, a luxury car turned into a fireball. 2 lives were lost, and a community is still left searching for answers. And it all happened in less than 60 seconds. It was May 10, 2025, in northern Spain. A British couple, aged 78 and 58, were driving a black Ferrari 488 GTB along the mountainous N621 highway in León. They were part of a group of around 20 British Ferrari owners traveling together as part of a high-end rally. The car, worth over $400,000, could reach speeds up to 205 miles per hour. This wasn't just a sightseeing trip. It was a carefully planned event for luxury car enthusiasts. The N621 is known both for its beautiful mountain scenery and for being dangerous. The road runs through steep terrain with sharp turns, sudden drops, and narrow stretches. While it offers amazing views, it requires extra attention, especially in a high-performance car like the Ferrari 488 GTB. The group had arrived in the city of León the day before. Everyone was looking forward to a scenic weekend drive. But by early afternoon on May 10th, things went terribly wrong. At 1:47 p.m., emergency services were alerted. A vehicle had gone off the road and fallen into the Uso River. Witnesses reported that it lost control on a curve and disappeared over the edge. The car landed upside down in shallow water, with 2 people trapped inside. First responders rushed to the scene. The Civil Guard arrived quickly, followed by firefighters and medical teams. The area was difficult to reach. Dense trees, underbrush, and uneven ground surrounded the river. Firefighters had to cut through the vegetation to get close. When they reached the Ferrari, it was heavily damaged. The roof had collapsed, and the car was flipped, resting halfway submerged in the river. Debris was scattered across the area. Rescue teams worked for more than 6 hours to reach and recover the car and its occupants. Emergency crews had to remove the doors to safely take the bodies out. Only after that was the car turned upright. It was a slow and difficult process due to the damage and the setting. Though the names of the couple were not released, officials confirmed they were British. The vehicle had a UK license plate, and they were part of the rally. Witnesses said the Ferrari had been speeding shortly before the crash and was alone at the time. No other cars were involved. Investigators haven't determined the exact cause. Some believe the car may have lost control on a turn. Others suggested the driver may have suffered a sudden health issue. A local expert noted that a car with 700 horsepower demands careful handling, especially on roads like the N621. Photos from the scene showed the wrecked Ferrari in the quiet river, surrounded by greenery. The stillness of the water stood in contrast to the violence of the crash. Emergency workers described the recovery as emotionally difficult. Spending hours in the river, trying to retrieve 2 people who couldn't be saved, left a strong impact. The UK's Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office confirmed the deaths and said they were assisting the victims' families. By the next day, the story had made headlines across Europe. Reactions poured in online, from shock to condolences. Authorities are still reviewing the scene, the road conditions, and the car itself. It's unclear whether the couple passed away from the impact or from being stuck underwater. This wasn't the first tragic accident involving British tourists in Spain. Just months earlier, a woman had been seriously injured in Menorca, and 2 men died in a separate crash involving a speedboat. But this accident stood out. A scenic rally, a powerful car, and a challenging road all came together in the worst way. The Ferrari was removed from the river later that evening, and investigations are ongoing. Whatever caused the crash, whether it was the road, speed, or something else, 2 lives were lost. For the people who knew them, and for the emergency crews who tried to help, this road will now be remembered for something far more tragic than its beauty.